I'm back. That little voice inside your head. We both know going to Office Depot Office Max for 50% off print services is super smart. And your biz could use an Epson printer for $70 off. Now $79.99. Plus 50% off signs and banners? Oh, you deserve this. So let's go. Office Depot Office Max.
Taking care of business.
Offers end 11/18. Limit 1. Get 50% off coupon in-store or visit officedepot.com/save.
We're about to go to Chocolate City. This is very
Let's
exciting.
get it.
The capital of the United States.
Woo!
I know I wasn't going nowhere. Re-signed with the Wizards, man. Signed my extension. You know where I want to be. I love being in D.C.
What's this all about? We're on the kiss cam. Feel a little reluctant to take that.
How sweet.
My wife tell me all the time I got big nuts. So my nuts on the line.
And we did that. For the culture. For the culture.
To me, you're a clown. That's unacceptable.
Merry Christmas, little man.
One of the best cities in America.
One thing about fashion is nothing is on time. Fashion is a little bit late.
For three. What a shot.
Broadcasting from the capital of the free world, this is Zardcast.
Welcome to Zardcast. I'm CT Schwink. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at Zardcast. Would be much appreciated. Give us the subscribe, too, on iTunes, Overcast, Google Play, all that jazz. almightyballer.com/Zardcast is the website where you can find all of our work. Dave, how you doing tonight?
I'm really ecstatic to be here.
We got 4 wins to talk about, man. Just like you predicted.
Did I?
You always predict wins.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to say it.
Duncan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, too. Also happy to be here.
You commuted over here. You sound like you were in Uber pool hell.
I wasn't even in a pool. I got out of work late. There just an issue. Held me up.
Fair enough.
Can't get into it for legal reasons.
Oh, dicey.
It was a very serious issue.
Huh. Well, glad you made it here, all the way across the city. And joining us via Skype, Kelly Cohen, at PolitiCohen_ on Twitter. She's all over the place. You can find her doing stuff for NBC Sports Washington, maybe moonlighting for Bullets Forever on Twitter from time to time. How you doing?
I am. I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Yeah, I can't believe tomorrow's Friday. Thank God. Or today. It basically feels like Friday.
Yeah, you were caught off guard when I sent you the hot message on Twitter saying we were about to roll. You're like, oh, yikes.
I know. It's been a very long week, and I was on vacation this past weekend, so it kind of like throws you off when you get back from vacation because you just don't realize it's suddenly Monday. And then I'm actually working this weekend, so I don't even really have a weekend. So I'm just waiting till Thanksgiving patiently.
Man.
Where was vacation?
So, I was in Chicago, freezing to death. I went up with my 2 best friends from high school to visit some friends from college. Just kind of did like one giant reunion. It was great, but it unexpectedly blizzarded on Friday, and I did not bring any proper shoes. So I was traipsing around Chicago in a blizzard in Adidas shoes.
Yikes.
So it was special, but it was great. And so now I'm here and sitting on my couch trying to get my Chromecast to work. And yeah.
Did you pit your high school friends against your college friends in a battle?
No, they kind of knew each other. It's kind of, I don't know how it's like for guys, but for girls, kind of you become friends with your best friend's friends. Just somehow you just do through social media. So we've all known of each other forever. I mean, my high school friends and I, we've been friends for 15 years. My college friends, they see you through that, growth of semi-adulthood. So it's good.
We have a scenario like that in this room. Schwink is he was my college roommate, and he goes way back with Dave.
Oh yeah.
So the only way he could get us to see eye to eye was to put us on a podcast together.
It helps though that there's just been no growth among the three of us in decades. So
yeah, a little bit of
Hey,
resentment.
that's typical for men, No, I'm kidding.
The Adidas shoe thing sounds like the pit of your trip to Chicago, but what was the peak of it all?
I mean, just being back with friends. I mean, anytime you can be with friends as an adult living in, the world is just so crazy busy, but at the end of the day, those are the friendships that mean the most, those are the people that have seen me through my highest highs and my lowest lows. So it's always good. We talk, God bless social media. We can talk on G-Chat. We can Snapchat each other. But there's something special about seeing those friends face to face and just really hashing out life with them. So it was good. But like I said, I came back. I've had a crazy week. I worked like 18 hours Wednesday. So it's been a long week, but I like the hustle, so no complaints.
And you just been watching a lot of Wizards this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone knows me, they know that sports are my life. So I obviously watched the first of the home and home. That was a really interesting game. It's always fun to watch new hometown. Oh yeah, I guess I should say I'm from Miami, born and raised. So it's always fun to watch old hometown versus new hometown. I've lived in DC for 5 years, and it's weird because I never feel like I lose when that happens. Obviously they've never met in the playoffs. I don't think ever, the Heat and Wizards. So I've never had to deal with that because I don't know what I would do. I know what I would do, but I've never had to deal with that. So that's good. So obviously I think this home and home is pretty telling and it's really important. And both fan bases should pay attention to these two games equally. But obviously it's not as big of a deal since it's so early in the season. But yeah, but happy to have all sports rolling at the same time.
Well, this is why we brought you on, because we thought you were the foremost expert at this intersection of Wiz Heat here. So happy to have you on to talk about it. And before last night's game, the Heat had the Wizards number. They'd won 5 straight on them. I remember last year when we were doing the show, we had talked about like potential playoff matchups, and we were like, we want nothing to do with the Heat at all.
Yeah. I mean, the Heat were amazing last season. I think the NBA postseason got robbed by not seeing the Heat. I think they could have gone pretty far in the Eastern Conference last year, but this year's team is different. It's weird. I'm feeling like I'm watching the Dolphins. Like we're kind of doing some mediocrity right now, but I don't know what you want to talk about specifically about last night's game or heading into the Friday game, but this Heat team's weird. I'm not very optimistic about it. That being said, I was really not optimistic about them last year, and that obviously turned around at the end of the season, even though they didn't make the playoffs. But I think as a Wizards fan, you have to be really happy with what happened last night. The defense was amazing. To have Marcin Gortat have such a terrible game and Hassan Whiteside have a pretty good game at the end of the night, but still not really go off. I think he had like 8 shot attempts. I think you have to be really happy knowing what the Wizards have been doing on defense lately, which has just been terrible. And so holding them to under 100 points for a team that the Heat can get pretty spurty. They can just go off and just nail a ton of 3-pointers. I think as a Wizards fan, you have to be pretty happy with last night's game, but you also have to be concerned about the Friday game, especially if this is a team that you could see in the playoffs. These home and homes are important because you kind of figure out how two teams can match up in the playoffs. So, like I said, even though it's early in the season, and I think the Heat are still struggling, trying to figure out who they are, and the Wizards are still they're not struggling, but they're still trying to figure out their identity. I still think this, back-to-back is pretty important.
Do you think there's any, I feel like this is kind of like a baseball doubleheader, like the Wizards won this first one, so I think I just feel like the Heat are destined to win tomorrow night, even though it's on the road. What do you think, looking at the Heat, what do you think maybe gave the Wizards fits in previous installments of these games here? What is it about the Heat that might cause some problems for the Wizards? We didn't see, we saw Tyler Johnson dropping threes last night. Right. He's a real pest. Whiteside, like you said, he had 14 points. He only had 8 shot attempts. But he can be a real pain, and he's way more athletic than Gortat is. What is it about this Heat team that could cause not just the Wizards, but the Eastern Conference in general some issues?
So I think as someone who obviously follows the Heat pretty closely, I think from a non-basketball standpoint, I think their whole Heat culture thing, their brotherhood thing is really strong. And I think we see it in teams that fail. We see it in teams that succeed. If you don't have that cohesion and that kind of, you're my brother, I'm going to go out there and do whatever I need to do for you on the court, the team's not going to succeed. And I think that is something that's really good with the Heat right now, and it's been like that for the past few seasons. Whether with or without Wade, with or without Bosh, with or without LeBron, even without those superstars, I think there's just this like Heat way of life that I think carries them kind of, even if maybe their starting lineup isn't that great, it kind of carries them into being pretty good, being able to compete with a team that, like, for example, we struggle and collapse and they can't really make it back from that. And I think the Heat takes advantage of teams like that, including the Wizards, when the Wizards but then again, the Wizards had a terrible third quarter last night and they were able to keep it together and win the game. So I think that's why they won it. I think the Heat, when they win those types of games, they capitalize on kind of a team freaking out, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's necessarily immaturity or not being cohesive or not being a brotherhood. I'm not saying the Wizards aren't like that, but I think that helps the Heat when maybe they're out talented against another team. But then again, and then on the basketball standpoint, like physically on the actual court, the Heat are a very streaky team. Like you said, Tyler Johnson rained some threes, but no one else did. Winslow kind of had a bland night. Josh Richardson had a bland night. Hassan Whiteside had a bland night. We're a team that if someone's going to, go on that kind of streaky roll and just drain a bunch of threes, or Dion Waiters is going to post someone up in ISO and own it, which he did not do in the first game, which was embarrassing when he bobbled that ball in the fourth. But I think that's what makes the Heat also stand out against a team like the Wizards, is but that is, I guess, like any NBA team. But I think in terms of the Wizard, or in terms of the Heat, they don't have a Kyrie Irving. They don't have a Stephen Curry who can go on a streak by himself. It's just more of the team getting streaky and being able to elevate themselves from like mediocre, pretty good to pretty great, and then being able to compete and make a team like the Wizards or Toronto nervous in the playoffs.
What do you think is the source of that? Is it a Spoelstra thing? Is it like the institutional memory of Udonis Haslem? Because they're definitely like,
hey, Haslem's still there.
Oh, I didn't have any
no
idea. But because they're definitely like a really tough team, and they're always, they beat the Wizards a bunch of times in a row. But so I'm looking at their roster right now, and I would say Dragic and Whiteside are the only players that I would say are like unqualified good NBA players. I don't know if you have more on there.
You forgot Kelly Olynyk.
That are like pretty good, like in the B level kind of situation.
Well, I would say I think all 5 Wizards starters are good NBA players. Okay. I don't know if, other than those two, I don't know if you guys have any other that I would say are just like, solidly above average NBA players.
I wouldn't say that. I would put Dragic and Whiteside like a little bit above solidly good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I do think, right, when you look at a starting lineup and you look at talent, the starting 5 Wizards are better than the Heat, but then the Heat have a really good bench. So I think that's kind of what makes the Heat be able to compete with these teams, is they have that bench. When I see the Wizards bench come onto the court, I'm not exactly thrilled as a Wizards fan.
Sure.
And we all say it, like when we're up in Bloggers Row at the Wizards games, when some of those guys check in, and like I kind of feel bad calling them out, but when I see some of these bench players check in, I wince, because I'm like, oh God, when you see when I see Mahimi go up against some people, I'm like, oh no. But then, I see a bench player for the Heat check in, or maybe even another team, and I'm like, yeah, I'll allow it. Like, yeah, it could be worse. It's not maybe the best 6th man or the 7th man, but it's certainly not terrible. So I think that is kind of what propels the Heat to be not just, that team sitting, not to say that this season's team is not doing it for me, really. I think it's weird. I don't think they're very good, but again, it's early in the season and there's still a lot to figure out. And that's the beauty of it being, I guess, a long season, is you can kind of, the Cavs aren't playing great either. So you can kind of figure out your identity, but it does become, there is a point, I guess, where it is too late. And I guess you could point to last season's Heat. Like they obviously went on that amazing roll to finish the season, but they almost waited too long to figure their crap out. And that's why they didn't make the playoffs. So I think that almost adds a more interesting layer to this home and home for the Heat and Wizards, because both of the teams, not that the Eastern Conference is amazing, but both of them can't necessarily wait because it's so crowded with mediocrity. Both of them can't wait until so late to figure out who they want to be, or they will miss the playoffs, you know?
Definitely. This, you mentioned Mahimi. This actually is a question for
so early
all three of you. Of players.
I know, I've been talking a lot. Can someone else please talk?
Of players receiving significant minutes who aren't like rookie or second year players, is there anyone playing worse than Mahimi in the league so far this season?
Oh, wow. I mean, okay, someone else can answer that because I've been talking a lot.
Oh, yikes. I mean, I'm just looking at the Heat roster because that's what I have in front of me. I mean, I would venture to say maybe Wayne Ellington is playing better than him. Is that, would you say that's
Wayne
fair?
Ellington's pretty good.
Yeah. You mentioned wincing when Mahimi goes on the court, and that's exactly how I feel. It's brutal. He's so bad. And I don't know. I feel like we three on this podcast have been like normally the defenders of some of the Wizards who are constantly shit upon. But
yeah,
I'm all on the shitting team when it comes to Mahimi. He is so bad.
I was actually thinking about this from like the opposite angle. I was watching the Sixers Lakers game last night, and I was watching Lonzo Ball play, and I was thinking like, is this the worst player that's like in a rotation playing like, you know, big minutes every night? And I was like, he's still way better than Mahimi is.
Absolutely.
He like barely, if he hits the backboard, that's like a successful shot for Lonzo Ball. And he's still way better than Mahimi.
Yeah.
He's been, and all last year, every time that he played, I was like, I feel like he's really turning it around, even when he was terrible. He's just so bad. All he does is foul and drop the ball. And
yeah,
I can't think of a worse
travels all the time.
Yeah, and
he just doesn't fit in with the Wizards roster, and I don't understand why Jason Smith is not getting more time over him.
Yeah, it's bizarre. He doesn't like. Did Jason Smith play at all last night?
I don't remember
I
seeing
think
him.
so.
Let me pull it up here. But I mean, even like, I mean, I saw.
No, he didn't, because I specifically remember someone somewhere I saw that after the last game. So who they played before Miami?
Played Sacramento.
Who did they play?
The Kings.
Sacramento. John said that Jason Smith's their best player off the bench. I'm pretty sure John said that. And then he didn't play at all against Miami in the game.
And I saw the quote that Scott Brooks gave about it. He was like, "It's keeping me up at night that I can't get him in the game." And it's like, it's definitely not, because there's such an easy solution. You just don't fucking play Jan Mahimi. And I don't know if this is never a thing I've heard about the Wizards before, but if it's like a front office thing, like we're paying this guy $16 million, you need to pay him, you need to play him. That sounds more like a Redskins thing than a Wizards thing. But I don't know. There has to be a reason for it, but he's awful. He had 2 rebounds in like 18 minutes last night. If he can't even rebound, he's literally useless.
I've got him pulled up now for some numbers. In the 14 games this season, he's got 43 fouls and 47 points.
Oh my god.
That's really bad.
And if you look at go fouls to made shots, it's 43 fouls, 17 made field goals.
Oh my god.
And I think I saw a thing on Twitter that he's either on pace to do it, or he's like up in near the leaderboard for like the most fouls per minute played that anybody's ever had in a season.
That's insane. I don't understand. So I guess it'll be interesting to see if, I mean, obviously because the Wizards won in the first game, it's not like they have to go in and make drastic changes. But then again, they had a terrible third quarter, and there were a lot of weird things that contributed to them winning. You know, they definitely didn't necessarily have some stunning game that they could walk away from and say, yes, we beat the Heat, we did amazing, blah, blah, blah. So it'll be interesting to see if there will be adjustments, because Spoelstra is out here making 35 adjustments as we talk. So it'll be interesting to see if there are adjustments. And yeah, I don't think Jason Smith played on Wednesday. So
he's only appeared in 6 games so far.
Very bizarre.
It's weird.
We also didn't see Mike Scott last night either, which was kind of strange.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't know if this was just me, but it seemed like right before Markeith got ejected or fouled out and then got ejected last night, there was like 5 minutes left, and it was Wall, Beal, Oubre, Markeith, and Gortat. That was the lineup they were going to end the game with Oubre in instead of Otto.
Yeah.
Which I think is, Scott Brooks did a lot of like different things last night. But I think that would be interesting if he just wasn't going to play Otto down the stretch and play Oubre instead.
Oubre was having a pretty good game, though.
He definitely was. I just don't know. And maybe it works that basically every lineup that Oubre is in is great, unless it's just him and 4 bench guys.
Fair. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because there were a lot of things that Spoelstra did that I questioned. When the Wizards were in the bonus with like 7 minutes left, I was confused as to why Whiteside wasn't in because it's, I just felt like Whiteside being in there, being in the paint would have helped the Heat when they were in the bonus because he draws so many. I don't know. I thought there were a lot of interesting decisions. There were obviously a lot of weird ref calls, which I can argue as a Heat fan didn't go our way for being at home. I definitely thought that was gold. It was goaltending against Tyler Johnson at the end by John, and then
it definitely was.
And then to get called, Beal then gets to hit 4 free throws, and that completely changes the game. So I think there were some weird ref calls there at the end. So it'll be interesting. The second game is going to be really good. And I think it could. My dream is for the Heat and the Wizards to play in the playoffs. It was obviously more my dream when we still had Dwayne Wade, but it would be awesome, and I would freak out. So I think in my heart, this home and home is kind of a way of me figuring out, me seeing maybe a glimpse into the future of this postseason.
So it sounds like that you said it would be your dream if Dwayne Wade was on the Heat. It sounds like you're saying you would want to see the Wizards lose to the Heat in the playoffs.
I would probably cheer for the Heat.
Oof. All right, we're gonna have to
my
cut off this
hometown,
interview.
my birth town, I cheer for every Miami sport forever, good or bad. So I'm sorry. Obviously I would be very happy, and John's one of my favorite players in the league, and I would be happy to see him go off for 80 points against my Heat, but I would have to cheer for the Heat.
I similarly am torn between 2 teams, Sixers and Wizards fandom, but I think of it as more like my nightmare if they meet in the playoffs. I would have no idea how to react. You'd
go Sixers.
I feel like I'd end up pulling for the Sixers, but I would hate it. I would hate rooting.
It would tear this podcast apart for sure.
I think it's just for me, I've always been a Miami sports Heat, all of them fans. So I've only really lived in DC for 5 years, and it sounds bandwagony, which is terrible, but obviously when I first moved here, I moved here in 2013, the Wizards were pretty terrible. So I obviously, when I would go to games, it's not necessarily like I was cheering for them because there was nothing to cheer for because I knew they were going to get beat. So only recently have they actually been good and been worth paying attention to. So I think my fandom stems from the fact that I can go see this, new hometown team and they're not going to get clobbered. It sounds terrible to say, but I remember
no, that's I have the exact same origin story. It's literally
I
same
remember
thing.
I went to a game in 2015 with one of my girlfriends, and we sat behind the basket for $40. We had amazing. So it's just
those were simpler times.
Yeah. And everyone was really only there to see John. It was let's see what John can do because he's a great up and coming point guard.
And to boo Vesely.
What?
And people came just to boo Vesely.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, only recently, I guess in maybe the end of 2015 did they get good, right? But it's not it's a new development, so that's kind of why it's like, okay, yeah, I'm here for the Wizards because it's not going to let me down. Why am I going to jump on a new team that's going to disappoint me?
It's right. You're in similar company. Once John is done here in Washington, Dave is totally out on the Wizards. He'll never watch another game. He's already declared it. Yeah,
I get it. Yeah. So
you mentioned Dwayne Wade a second ago. How are you handling him leaving South Beach, going to Cleveland? Did you burn your jersey or anything like that? How's that all going for you? It's got to be an adjustment.
I was more upset about the Bulls, the Chicago thing, because I just didn't get why he was so obsessed with this, why everyone became so obsessed with this idea of going home. Like but I got it. I was upset at first, and then I understood it because we were going to the Heat were going to get stuck in a Kobe Bryant-esque deal, and that obviously destroyed the Lakers, and that could have maybe hurt the Heat way more than it did, which is Wade leaving. I thought it was weird. The whole thing was handled very strange. I felt like he hated the Heat organization. I felt like the Heat organization hated him. It was just a lot of like weird tension. And then he obviously, went down south in Chicago. So I was happy with that. And then him going to Cleveland, I don't really get it. It's weird. I get wanting to play with your best friend, but the Cavs team is just not good. I feel like they're not cohesive. They don't make sense. Wade doesn't make sense on the team. But I guess you do what you want to do when you're Dwayne Wade in this world and you're, a Hall of Famer and all that, you can do what you want. I think he will probably ultimately sign one of those like Paul Pierce deals and retire in a Heat jersey. I mean, we gave him his entire career. So he can just go do what he wants at this, like if he had won a title with the Bulls, I probably would have been pissed. If he wins a title with Cleveland, I'll feel weird about it. I'll be like, okay, I guess, but I won't be necessarily mad. Like, I'll just be like, all right, I guess you went out and did it. Like, sure, congrats. But I know that no titles to him will ever mean what those three in Miami did. So,
which ones meant more to you? His title with Shaq or his titles with LeBron and Bosh?
I just think the LeBron one, because that's kind of that, I was young. I was kind of just getting into NBA since I grew up on football. So I was kind of making that like transition into like, all right, NBA is fun to watch. Let me actually sit and watch it, figure it out. And I loved Shaq, before Wade, it was Shaq for me. So when they played together, I loved that. And that was just a fun team, and it was a fun win. And, Wade's performance in the finals, this is still some of the best performances ever in that finals. But they all have different special meaning, after the big three lost to Dallas and then we came back and won that series. That was amazing. Came back and won that title. That was amazing. To give LeBron that first ring was great. But the second one was just as cool because the Ray Allen shot.
I anticipate that it's probably going to be the 2019 championship for the Wizards that means the most to me. But I'm not sure yet.
It could be, 2022 or...
It could be any of them.
Yeah.
Who knows how they're going to play out, but...
So many on the horizon.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, I got one more question for you, unless you guys got anything else before we let you go here. What's... For Thanksgiving, what does the typical spread look like in the Cohen household? Is it traditional, non-traditional? Is there like I don't know, some sort of, are there like enchiladas on the table or something? People do
Oh my
that,
gosh.
Right? And what's your favorite
sad.
dish?
This is my first Thanksgiving not home in many years.
Way to go.
Normally we if we don't go to, for a while, we would go to a country club. My dad's a doctor, and one of his partners lived at a very awesome country club that literally had the world's best food. And it was that typical stuff. But if we didn't do that, we honestly were very untraditional, and we would just get public subs.
Nice.
And if you're from Florida, a public sub is the mecca of life. And so we would just get turkey subs and watch sports.
Easy enough.
Exactly.
Kelly Cohen at Politicohen _ on Twitter. She's with NBC Sports Washington, Bullets Forever. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one. I look forward to the game.
Hey folks, Dave DeFore of On the NBA with Dave DeFore here. I'd like to talk to you about my friends over at Harry's, my go-to razor for a smooth, close, and comfortable shave. Almighty Baller Radio is the go-to network for NBA podcasts, but if you visit harrys.com/ballers, you'll get a free trial set from Harry's and find out why over 3 million guys have switched to Harry's. Harry's is all about a great shave at a fair price. With top quality blades made in a German factory with over 100 years of blade making experience, you get a close, clean shave every time, 100% guaranteed, and at half the price of the leading 5-blade razor. So go to harrys.com/ballers, BALLERS today. You'll get the free trial kit that has become my personal go-to every morning. A weighted, ergonomic razor handle, 5 precision-engineered blades with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, a rich, lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. A $13 value, this is all yours for free when you sign up, just by covering the cost of shipping. You're supporting the network here at Almighty Baller, but you're also making a great decision for yourself. The decision to find out how Harry's has fixed shaving for the ordinary guy. Check out that URL, harrys.com/ballers. One more time, that's harrys.com/ballers to receive a free trial shave set for just the cost of shipping.
There she goes. Oh, man, I'm going to have to redo that.
We were just talking about how good your horse clomps were last time we had a guest.
It's because I got the microphone in my hand. I got to put it down. Hang on. There she goes. Kelly Cohen, everyone.
I am not going to let Schwink get away with putting in a second take on horse clomps. That was his second take on the horse
I'll leave
clomps.
it all in there, yeah. To embarrass myself, really. Because last week was so strong, and then this week it just flamed out.
More like horse shit this week.
Nice. Well, we got 4 wins to touch on. I mean, we've basically gotten to the meat of that Heat game, but yeah, they played some nice defense in the first half. Things went a little bit awry in that third quarter. They only scored 10 points, but they flipped it on and closed it out.
I want to read back the transcript of our group text so Duncan, I guess you were following on Twitter, and you said during this third quarter meltdown, Twitter's kept me in the loop for what apparently has been a meltdown. Schwig said only had like a 12-point lead. They're still in it. LOL, I guess it has been a 20-point swing. I said, we've seen worse. Plenty of time to come back. Which I think is like a pretty good encapsulation of...
like every game.
Yeah, and especially like last year. We would get down like 18 in the second quarter or whatever, in the third quarter and come back. And it wasn't that bad. It was like a big-time meltdown, but we've seen so much worse. Yeah. It didn't feel very urgent at any point.
I was picking up lots of urgency, but it was through Twitter where those things are exaggerated. I watched the first half at work before I left, and then was on the Metro getting Twitter updates, and it seemed like from what I was reading, like they'd forgotten how to play basketball.
It was like that for like 12 minutes. But I think that's kind of been like the theme of this whole season before, and is sort of the theme of all of Wizards Twitter, is like the sky is constantly falling. Even last episode when they were supposedly playing such atrocious defense, they were like 20th in the league. Guess where we're ranked right now in defense?
After those 4 games, if they were 20th before, I'm going to say 11.
I'm going to go... Oh, man.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to guess 14. So.
11 is exactly right.
I should probably just leave. I'm not going to top that.
So... Oh, sorry. Actually, it's 10 now.
No.
It was 11.
You got to stay.
Before the games that have just happened, but... or maybe some of the ones that ended later, but
who knows? It's math.
So we're at 10 now. There was never any real crisis, I don't think. The team always starts slowly, and we did start slowly, and we're still 9-5.
I saw a nice stat out there today. I don't remember what number road win it was, but maybe it was their 4th road win or something that they got last night. And to get to their 4th road win last season, it was like mid-January.
Yikes.
It might not have been the 4th, whatever number it was. But it was.
I'm feeling pretty positive about the whole. I mean, like, obviously last week's episode was very doom and gloom. You lose to the Mavericks, that's what's going to happen. But I mean, this is kind of what happened last year, just not as in like dramatic and ugly fashion. Like they just need some time to warm up, and I feel like by the time we get to that, that game in December on Christmas Day against the Celtics, like I feel like we should see them in like full form. Like Markieff is still getting up to speed. But everyone else is, John, his shot has just started to fall. Obviously that can fluctuate a little bit, but there was some level of consistency last year that he just really hasn't. Maybe he's hit it in like the last couple games, but we haven't seen it a whole lot yet.
And John is shooting better from 3 right now than Brad is.
That's wild.
Which is obviously like the biggest, sort of correction that's yet to come. So, and it is true that our schedule was extremely easy to start the season. Mm-hmm. And we didn't take advantage of that as much as we could have. But, and you can't look at last year and be like, oh, well, we'll just go on like a 15-game home winning streak again.
Why not?
But, well, I do think there's like as much room between how we're playing now and how we can play as there was last year between how they played at the beginning of the season and how they played in the middle of the season. Like the offense right now is ranked 5th in the league and is not even close to as good as it can be, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a lot of potential for growth and like hitting their stride, like you said, at Christmas or even later, which would probably be ideal.
I was thinking about that too the other day, how, basically same sort of start to, not as bad as last year, but, they picked it up about early December. They went on this big run. And then as the end of the season came about, they really did slow down.
Yeah.
And, they were able to, dispatch the Hawks and competitive against the Celtics. But, it would have been nicer if that streak had started like maybe at the end of December or at the beginning of January. Right. And maybe it bleeds into the playoff a little bit more. So, yeah, and, like last night, you got the 10-point third quarter. They play an average third quarter instead of a fucking terrible one, then, they might blow the Heat out.
Yeah, and you got your 3rd straight game where the starters don't even have to play the 4th quarter.
Yeah. And, on top of all this, these 4 wins, we're just on the first one here, but they held all their opponents under 100 points. That's huge.
Yeah. Did you see that tweet about what their record is when they hold the opponent under 100 points? It's crazy. It's like almost 90%, I think.
Damn. Over like the last 2 seasons or something?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to play this a couple times.
5 to wins and nobody beats me.
And I would like to think after that third quarter, the Wizards did one of these.
I put on my robe and wizard hat.
And then they got serious about shit, John scores 27 last night. Brad gets 26. Otto with 12 points and 13 rebounds. And as we mentioned previously, Keith ejected in crunch time. Fortunately, that did not come back to bite them. I wasn't as concerned about not having him on the floor as much as I was just giving up 2 free throws. So,
Otto had all 12 in the first half again, though, right?
I'm not entirely sure about that. That sounds right, though. Most of them, at least.
It's no good.
I don't get it.
Drives me crazy.
It's so weird.
I read a book a few months ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's actually the end. No, I read a book. I think it was called Thinking Basketball or something like that. It was like it wasn't like a stats book. I guess it talked about stats, but it was more like theoretical. And like the overarching plot of the book was that the main point of this author was that like no part of the game should be valued more than any other part. Like why do we care about clutch? Like everything that happens in the first, second, third count just as much as the fourth, which taken to an extreme the way the author did, I feel like is just kind of not valid just because that's not how anything works. But one part of it, what he was talking about that I definitely agreed with is if you build a lead with a certain style of play and you have a 10-point lead through 3 quarters because you played, the passing around involving all these different people, and you're just working within your game plan, and then you get to the fourth quarter and you stop doing that, and instead you focus on the players that are your go-to scorers throughout the quarter. Of course, that can result sometimes in the offense stalling and just not continuing to produce like you were earlier in the game. And the way they use Porter to me is often a prime example of this. So frequently the Wizards come out really strong, with big first quarters or big runs in the first half of the first quarter where he's if not the focal point of the offense, heavily involved. They're looking for him, and then they just use him less and less as the game goes on.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about, what people say stuff like that, what it tends to miss is when people criticize why do you just have your guy hold the ball at the end of a quarter or whatever and take a bad shot. It's because you're never going to turn the ball over doing that, and it's a low or there's a high ceiling for a play like that. But you know who never turns a ball over? Is Otto.
It's true.
I think he led the league in turnover percentage last year, and that's the whole point of Otto is that there's nothing bad that ever happens when he has the ball. So I totally agree. Just let him shoot 20 times. Just see what happens. He never has a bad outing as long as he gets the ball enough.
I tweeted it out a couple days ago. He's averaging a shade under 12 shots a game, which I feel is even a bit of an outlier. Last night he only had 8, and why he should have 14 to 15 shots a game. I think he shoots a crazy percentage. He was 2 for 2 from 3 last night. It doesn't make any sense to me. I know all these guys want to get their shots, but after John and Brad, he's next up. I know it's a little bit different with March, in the paint, and Keith doing the same thing, but they got to get him up, and they got to stop stymieing him in the offense in the second half.
Yeah, just if they're using him and defenses have to key on him, then it just makes shots for Brad easier, shots for Keith easier. It makes, the more people that are involved, the easier it should be in theory for everybody, especially with somebody as good as Wall at feeding his teammates.
And he can score from anywhere. He can pull up from 3. He can, come around a screen on the elbow. He can post up. He can do literally anything. Just get him the ball and you know what? Try it. And if it doesn't work and Otto somehow ends up taking bad shots, then don't do it anymore. But I can't even imagine what that would look like him overextending himself.
You know where he's looked really good? When they have him running with the bench unit. I know it's kind of, I don't like the wholesale lineup change from Scott Brooks, but I think he looks extra good when he's out there with those guys because he really does. Especially with Oubre too, but he really invigorates them, and then he can get his shots and do some real damage. So I like when he staggers Otto like that, and maybe that's why Kelly was playing down the stretch. Otto led the team in minutes last night, so maybe he was let's let Otto have a little break, and Kelly will fill in for him because he was kind of driving the bench unit for a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think we've even seen close to the extent of what he can do as a ball handler either. They let him run a little bit of pick and roll now, but he's definitely very good at it. I just don't see the downside of getting him a bunch of shots.
Let's backpedal a little bit. We'll go to the Kings game from Sunday night. The Wiz take the season series to Zippy. They dismantle them 110-92. John missed 2 shots in the whole game, was 4 for 4 from 3. The bench had a nice outing. Mike Scott and Kelly Oubre looked great. Gortat dropped 18. No complaints over here from this one. It was very, very nice, very pleasant way to round out the weekend, I would say.
I love that you describe it as denigrating the Kings. I don't entirely know the definition of that word, but it sounds so mean, and I think it's great.
That's exactly. I mean, it was mean what they did to him in both games. They haven't played like that against anyone else. I mean, maybe this Hawks game from Saturday, which I did not watch a lick of, but possibly.
John's 3-point percentage went up, I think 7% after this game. So he's shooting like 9 of 10 from 3 against the Kings in 2 games, and then like 15% against everybody else.
I can dig it.
I mean, that's really all that it was. He came out and hit, I think, 3 threes in the first quarter, and the Kings are atrocious, and that was basically it.
Poor Kings. The previous evening, the Wizards clipped the Hawks 113-94. Kelly Oubre was awesome. Shredded Atlanta with 18 points. Locked down Dennis Schroeder. John had a migraine. He showed up in a ski mask to the game and still played well. The bench poured it on late. And Keefe looked extra nice. He had 18 points, most since returning from injury. I was tied up with some family matters and was watching football instead. What?
Oh, I thought you meant you were tied up watching Family Matters.
I don't think I've ever seen Family Matters before.
Really?
What?
Oh no, just kidding. I have. No, that's not true. I was thinking
of
a different show.
You were thinking of Step by Step, weren't you?
No, Family Matters is the show with Urkel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just think of the show with Urkel as like the Urkel show or something stupid like that. I don't associate the
That's
name.
so disrespectful.
I know.
That's
I'm
so
sorry.
disrespectful to the Winslows.
With Carl and Harriet Winslow.
I'm sorry. Not a huge fan over here in this corner. Can we move on, or is this not going to work anymore?
Did he do that?
Did he do that?
I didn't get it because I'm not a fan.
Eddie Winslow would beat the shit out of you if he heard you talking like this.
I don't know who that is, but he probably would.
And if Stefan
was
here.
Guys, can we get back on track? I don't know the references. I'm out of the loop. It's not fun.
I feel like you could have a good Stefan character for yourself. He's like the slick Urkel.
Yeah, because Steve builds like a machine to make him cool so that Laura will like him.
It's like Bizarro Urkel.
He's Stefan Urkel.
But he's like the smoothest dude around.
Oh.
I feel like you could one night as a bit just say your name slightly different and just act real like slick and smarmy. I would enjoy it a lot.
I could be like Shawink. That could work. That could be a good bit.
On second thought.
What? Come on, guys.
Wait, can we talk about the Wizards, please?
God damn it.
God damn it. Home Improvement, or whatever you're talking about.
Was there anything interesting about this game against the Hawks? I was watching Bama, Mississippi State.
No, not really.
Oh, good. Well, at least we can do this.
5 to Wiz and nobody beats me.
Dennis Schroeder was 2 of 16.
Dennis Schroeder.
That was pretty fun to watch.
He's the worst.
Yeah, I think Bellinelli was like the only guy I remember playing well.
Bazemore was okay. But all he ever is okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember anything. I don't even remember if I watched this game, to be honest with you.
We haven't played this one in a while, but I think it's appropriate.
It'll take a lot more than a bullet to the brain, lungs, heart, back, and balls to kill Michael Card.
Mike Scott with 10 points, 5 boards.
He's been awesome. What's he shooting? He feels like he never misses.
Do we know why he didn't play last night? Do we have any idea about that?
He's shooting 44% from 3.
That's a lie.
51%.
Oh, from 3.
Yeah, 51% from the field. And you know what? He's very dreamy, I think.
Yeah?
I'm going to zoom. I got him up on my computer. I'll zoom in.
He's got some, like, sleepy eyes, and there's, I don't know. He kind of does it for me.
You know what? Honestly, I'm a fan of the emoji tattoos.
Yeah, I think those are great.
He might not be that into them, maybe 20 years down the road, but for now, I like him.
He'll just have to get, like, the emojis of elderly people added as he gets older.
When he's, like, a grandfather, his kids are going to be so baffled by what those are.
Yeah, because all they'll know is Bitmoji.
Let me explain the eggplant emoji. Here's the aid worker on my shoulder. Who uses the aid worker emoji?
I don't know what that is by name.
Well, it's just the guy with like the cross, the red cross. It's like a helmet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's very prominent in this picture.
Some new emojis on the latest update. I don't know if you guys had the little keyboard bug. If you typed I, it was like you get like a question mark. They did an update that corrected that, but it also included a handful of new emojis.
What are they?
Off the top of my head, there's like a person covering their mouth like they're aghast. There's the heart eyes emoji. There's a stars eyes emoji.
Oh, I like that.
For what purpose?
When you see Mike Scott out in D.C., you can text us. Oh my gosh, I just saw Mike Scott.
And then there's a more like character style ones. So like there's like some zombies and some other things like that.
That's scary.
Spooky. Last game we have on the list here. Wiz beat the Lakers 111-95. This was such a lock. After losing to the Mavericks, after losing to the Wiz after the Wiz lost to the Lakers the previous week, in really dumb, annoying fashion, they took care of business. Otto had 20 and 11, and you could tell that they ratcheted up the defense. So that was nice to see that they didn't lose to the loser Lakers. One more time.
5 to Wiz and nobody beats me.
I'm a big time Lakers hater. I'm sure that part of it is because they beat us in that game earlier, but I just hate all those guys on the Lakers. I think they're all bad. I'm also kind of a Sixers hater, but I was even super rooted for them last night because I'm so tired of hearing about the Lakers.
I think the only guy I really like on there is I like Julius Randle.
He would be my favorite, probably.
I don't know. Did you see any of the interview stuff with Clarkson today?
Mm-mm.
He's a wild dude. You might like him better if you read some of that.
Would like him better if the Wizards had him on their roster, but that's just me.
Yeah. You know what, though? I generally don't like, and this is, I don't like guys that, like, talk a lot or, like, are very outspoken if they're not, like, good players or, like, doing well.
I don't feel like Jordan Clarkson is particularly outspoken. This all came from some interview or something that was done with him today, but I feel like I don't hear from him much.
Yeah. Not a fan of Brandon Ingram over here.
He looks like a real creep, I think.
Here's one quote.
He's so spindly.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Clarkson attributes his higher shooting percentage this year to more women before saying just playing, as a Lakers PR person shook their head in the background.
That's pretty good.
I wish I could find the others. Oh, well. Oh, here we go. This is him describing his game day routine. Wake up, eat some chicken or something, come here, get some shots up, go to the candy store, get some Skittles, take a nap, watch a movie, play some video games for 5 minutes until I get mad, might go to sleep again, wake up and drive to the arena, do my pregame shoot.
That's pretty solid. Good. I wonder what kind of chicken. That's my only question. Should have put this down for Otto. Hello. That one's loud.
He's just trying to get our attention.
Yeah. He needs to get Scott Brooks' attention to get more shots up, so. It all makes sense. Next up for the Wiz, as we spoke at length before, Miami at home on Friday, presumably when you'll be listening to this. Toronto on Sunday, back up at the Air Canada Center in Toronto, and then at Milwaukee on Monday. So back-to-back there on the road. A little bit tricky. I don't know how much faith I have in the Wiz pulling off a victory in Milwaukee. But
it's a tough trio in general.
Yeah.
Like all for sure winnable, but none are pushovers.
Mm-hmm. And the schedule gets significantly harder. If we want to just briefly glance ahead here. So after these three, they go on the road to Charlotte. They got Portland at home, back on the road on a back-to-back at Minnesota, at Philly. Then they get Detroit at home. So some tough games ahead. Got a West Coast or a long road trip there. 5 games after that: Portland, Phoenix, LA, Brooklyn. So and Utah, excuse me. So
it's nice though to not have like a hole to dig out of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right now we're on pace for 53 wins. That's like a nice little buffer. You know, you can drop a couple, still on pace to win 50, and I don't know. There's gonna be some ups and downs, but I feel overall very like confident.
Yeah, especially looking at the standings. Right, you got the Celtics on a tear, and I could see them maintaining top spot or staying top 2. But behind them, Detroit at 10-4. I don't think they're keeping that up.
Yeah,
and then Wizards are right there at 3 at 9-5. Toronto's also 9-5, but I would expect the Wizards to do better than Toronto the rest of the way, and then after that. I mean, Cavs are all the way down at 8-7. I think they'll pick it up, and I think they'll be incredibly dangerous in the playoffs and the favorite in playoffs probably. But for the regular season, I don't think they'll have the consistency or anything to really threaten for the top 2
to like
or 3
run
spots.
off like 12 straight wins or something. They don't have like the depth for it or anything like that. Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like the chances of being 1 or 2 in the East are still pretty strong.
I'm with you. The drive for 50 is alive. That's key. We need to keep tabs on that.
And honestly, right now, like the only thing, like the biggest obstacle for the Wizards is figuring out how to like keep their heads on straight.
Totally.
There's no like big injury issues. There's no like trying to figure out what the system is or anything like that. They just got to keep motivated, keep getting the defense better, and they can be as good as they want, basically. I feel very confident.
As you're wont to do, Dave. What do we think for these next 3 games? I'm going 2-1. I say they don't get that Milwaukee game.
Just based on the numbers I crunched, it's looking like it's going to be 3-0.
Woof.
I would, my instincts say pick things that are different from what you two did, but I don't think they'll go under 500, so I'm going to go 2-1 also.
Okay.
Yeah, they could drop 1. I don't know which one, but
it's true. I mean, like I said before about this Heat home and home, it feels like a baseball doubleheader. Like, if the Heat win tomorrow in the vault, like, wouldn't be shocking. Although I feel very strongly that they take the game against the Raptors. They smashed them without John, and I know John is, he'll be extra motivated to, share with the Raptors, what he's been up to.
And what's that guy's name? Is it Delon, right? That's on the Raptors?
Yeah.
Just dislocated his shoulder, so he's going to be out for a little bit. He's a big part of their bench.
But the rookie who's playing in his spot has been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Anunoby, isn't he gotten a lot of those minutes?
Oh yeah, OG.
I didn't watch it, but there were several breakdowns on how he locked up Harden in his first start.
Isn't he like a wing though?
Yeah.
Isn't Delon Wright a point guard? Is that not right?
I thought he was more of a wing as well.
I'll look it up for you guys. Don't worry.
Raptors run Lowry and then... Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Guys, I'm pressing the wrong buttons over here.
What else is new to you?
I know. Story of my life. Yeah, Wright's a point guard.
But, I mean, they do, like, that kind of thing with, like, Norman Powell kind of plays point guard or, like...
Yeah. Or the three.
Or, like, yeah, and same with, like, Fred Van Vliet, I think.
God, it makes me so mad. Fred Van Vliet's on the Raptors.
Yeah, he
Love
sucks.
him.
They love playing him. I think he's really bad. He was good against us, but he's not very good.
Yeah.
But that's like such a big part of what the Raptors do is that they have so many, and I thought that was going to be their downfall this year is that they got rid of so much of their bench last year, but their bench this year has been very good too. So,
what about the Bledsoe to Milwaukee? How's that? What feelings does that stir up?
What's really interesting is that so I already had Malcolm Brogdon and Chris Middleton on my fantasy team, and I had Bledsoe on my IR, and then he came back, and I was like, I'm gonna have to get rid of one of these guys, but they're all killing it, all three of them. So that's really my only thought on it.
I'm a little bit troubled by it. I mean, I know the Wizards and the Bucks were pretty even-handed last year, so you know, I don't necessarily think this puts them like over the edge and makes them, you know, maybe vying for that 1 or 2 seed in the East, kind of like the Wizards are. But maybe. I mean, we'll see how this game on Monday goes.
I think it really is more dependent on what Jabari Parker is going to do when he comes back.
100%.
If he comes back and played like he played last year, we're probably fucked. And if he doesn't,
he killed the Wizards.
We're probably fine. But yeah, I don't think Eric Bledsoe moves the needle that much. He's a good player. I don't know. I don't think he's that much better than Brogdon is.
No,
I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's pretty good. I think he makes them a lot better. I've only watched like a piece of a game since they've gotten him, and they looked awesome for those like 10 minutes I watched. So maybe that's why I'm feeling this way. But I think he does help them a lot, and they can play Brogdon and Bledsoe together, or they can play Middleton or Snell. They've got a ton of different guards to pair up with Giannis now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wonder when they're just going to stop playing like Henson and Thonmaker all together and just
go
Giannis at center. But it
does
maybe
seem
when
like Parker comes back, they can do that.
Yeah, it does seem like when Henson is playing really well, they're like unstoppable. But John Henson isn't that good when he's not playing well. They get really bogged down. And I think Jason Kidd might not be a very good coach. Like, if you have Giannis, how aren't you doing like something crazy every night, like a new lineup? Just let him play center, see what happens.
Yeah. Point center, bring it up on offense, guard the center on defense.
Before we wind it down, gentlemen, Dave, I want to get your thoughts specifically on those danged Boston Celtics. You were a little bit salty in our text message before coming over here.
Oh, my God, they won?
Yeah.
Did they win?
They sure did.
Wow.
13-2.
Held the Warriors at 88 points.
I was talking to, let's call him frenemy of the pod, Max Binstock, was on with us in the early days. He was throwing this out there, and I agree. I don't really understand all that much about like coaching basketball and motivating the guys, but like, how the hell does Brad Stevens just convince everyone to play defense? Like, I feel like what is it like some motivating factor? Is it like the system that everyone's buying into? Like, I don't understand like what makes him, like, what has gotten him to become, this like basketball savant that like all his players are just like, yeah, we're gonna play defense, we're gonna play it well, and we're gonna play it hard for a full 48. And they do it, every night. They did it last year. They did the year before. Like, I don't know. It's bizarre, and it's excellent for them, and it bums me out that he's not the Wizards coach.
Well, I don't think they were that good defensively last year.
I think they were pretty good. I mean, in the playoffs, they played well. I mean, they think they had better defensive players with Jay Crowder and Peter Bradley.
And I guess there's like a limit on how good you could be defensively when Isaiah Thomas is on your team.
But you like don't see this kind of buy-in like anywhere ever outside of like Popovich. Like that. Yeah. Like that's it. That's the list.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
I don't know.
And it's maddening as well.
Celtics won this game shooting 32.9% and 21% from three. That's pretty nuts. They only had a 5 rebound advantage. What's the turnovers? Even on turnovers, how is this even possible?
92-88 final score. If you haven't checked your score app here while you're listening,
Warriors had a 17-point lead over halfway through the third. It looks like.
Man, if they had Gordon Hayward,
they shot 38 free throws. Is how they did it. So it's just that it's rigged.
Weird. I don't know.
You were asking how I feel about it, and it's the same way I felt before. That snorting emoji.
Steam coming out your nose.
Oh,
out
you could have used one of the new ones. It's emoji where like red expletives over the mouth, or like the symbols, so it looks like you're cussing.
We'll edit that in post.
All right, guys. That is all I've got. I don't know if you... I really haven't really watched anything or listened to anything new. I don't know if you got a pop culture detour.
American Vandal is all I got. You got to watch it. It's hilarious.
I need to watch that. I need to watch the Nathan For You finale. And actually, the one thing I'm watching, I mentioned before, Law & Order, Menendez Brothers. The finale was on Tuesday. I haven't watched it, but I got to get in. Edie Falco is just tremendous. And yeah, so...
Me and a friend of the pod, Mike, had a shared day off last week and went and saw Jigsaw, basically because it was the only thing playing at the time we felt like going to the movies.
What's Jigsaw?
The latest Saw movie.
Bad.
It definitely was a bad movie for sure.
Is that the fifth one?
At least, I don't know. Before this, I'd only ever seen the first one in full. It's like pieces of the other ones. Definitely had some pretty laughable elements, but like in a bad way. No, the first one was solid, I thought.
The first one is fucked up. I guess it depends on if you like that kind of thing. I remember being like upset by it.
See, I'm not a big scary movie guy. I would like to be like thrilled and like bugged out. I don't watch that. Yeah. That is not for me.
Yeah.
I don't need that in my life.
Ooh, spooky. I thought Halloween was over.
I think I watched Hostel one time, and that is enough in that genre.
Yeah. You like that kind of thing, Duncan?
I don't like Hostel really. So I like Saw. Hostel's weird because it's like a porn for an hour, and then everyone just starts getting murdered.
All right, gentlemen. Well, let's shut it down on that. At Zardcast, subscribe on your telephone and the website, almightyballer.com/Zardcast. We'll figure out our plan for next week. Dave's going to South Carolina. It might just be a weird one. I might get a guest and just chat someone up. I don't know what your plan is, Duncan.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. Maybe we can do something on Tuesday or Monday night, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. We can just go over Embiid's game then.
Yeah. We can talk Embiid for a good 38 minutes.
If you're doing it on Monday night, I'll be here.
Okay. Well, the thing is, it'd be a post-game pod on Monday because they play the Bucks. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Keep an eye on the Twitter. I announced on the Twitter that we'd be recording on Thursday, which is something that I should do more often. But yeah, keep your eyes there.
All right. Who are my co-hosts? Dave, Duncan. I'm CT. That was Zardcast.
Yeah.